Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
What if the royal love story we thought we knew was hiding dark secrets? A shocking discovery has surfaced. Queen Camilla's private diary, rumored to contain explosive details about King Charles. From secret scandals to untold truths about their controversial romance. This diary could change everything we know about the British monarchy. What terrifying revelations could it hold?
Did you find it harrowing?
I did find it, and I think what made it so readable was your writing, your prose, your descriptions of nature.
Buckle up, because this royal drama is about to get even more scandalous. Stay tuned for the jaw-dropping details. Charles and Camilla first meet, 1970. It was the summer of 1970 when Prince Charles, the future King of England, met Camilla Shand for the very first time. The encounter happened at a polo match in Windsor Great Park, a setting that couldn't have been more fitting for a royal romance to begin. The air was filled with excitement, horses galloping, and laughter echoing across the field. Among the crowd stood Camilla, a confident and witty young woman who would soon capture the attention of the young prince. As the story goes, their meeting wasn't just casual, it was electric. Charles was immediately drawn to Camilla's charm and humor. Unlike many others in royal circles, Camilla didn't treat Charles as just a prince. She spoke to him like a regular person, and her down-to-earth personality made her stand out. She reportedly broke the ice with a cheeky joke that caught Charles off guard. Camilla reminded him that their great-grandmothers had both been mistresses to the same king. Her boldness left Charles both amused and intrigued, and the two hit it off instantly. Camilla, who was 23 at the time, wasn't from a royal family, but she came from an aristocratic background. She'd grown up around horses, countryside parties, and the kind of life that made her comfortable in the royal world. Charles, on the other hand, was just starting to step into his role as the Prince of Wales, balancing the weight of royal duties with his personal desires. Meeting Camilla felt like a breath of fresh air for him. Over the next few months, Charles and Camilla spent more time together, and their relationship began to blossom. They shared a love for the countryside, polo, and good conversation. Camilla had a way of making Charles feel at ease, something he deeply valued as the pressures of royal life surrounded him. Friends of the couple at the time said their chemistry was undeniable, but their love story hit its first obstacle not long after it began. Charles's royal duties called him away to serve in the Royal Navy, and their relationship was put on hold. While Charles was away, Camilla rekindled her romance with Andrew Parker Bowles, whom she would later marry. Though their love story didn't take off at the time, that first meeting in 1970 set the stage for decades of connection, heartbreak, and eventual reconciliation. It was the beginning of a royal relationship that would go on to shape history. Camilla marries Andrew Parker Bowles, 1973. The year was 1973, and the British social scene was buzzing with excitement. Camilla Shand, a young woman with a sharp wit and a warm personality, was set to marry Andrew Parker Bowles, a handsome and charming officer in the British Army. Their wedding was the talk of the town, and it became one of the most glamorous social events of the year. But behind the smiles and celebration, there was an untold story of love, heartbreak, and what might have been. Camilla and Andrew had been in an on-again, off-again relationship for several years. Andrew, who was known for his good looks and charisma, had many admirers, and their relationship wasn't always smooth. Despite the ups and downs, Camilla seemed deeply taken with him. She was ready to settle down and start a family, and Andrew appeared to be the perfect match for her. However, what many didn't know at the time was that another man, Prince Charles, had already captured Camilla's heart just a few years earlier. Prince Charles and Camilla had met in 1970, and their connection was undeniable. They shared a bond that was rare and unique, but timing was not on their side. Charles's royal duties required him to join the Royal Navy, which meant he had to leave Camilla behind. In his absence, Camilla rekindled her romance with Andrew, and their relationship grew stronger. When Charles returned, it was too late. Camilla and Andrew's engagement had already been announced. On July 4, 1973, Camilla and Andrew tied the knot in a grand ceremony at the Guards' Chapel in London. The wedding was attended by high society, including members of the royal family. Camilla looked radiant in her white dress, smiling as she walked down the aisle. From the outside, it seemed like a perfect fairy tale. However, those close to Camilla knew that Charles was never far from her thoughts. Despite marrying Andrew, Camilla and Charles remained friends. They stayed in touch, and their bond remained strong even as they built separate lives. Camilla and Andrew went on to have 2 children, Tom and Laura, but their marriage was far from perfect. Charles and Camilla's affair resumes. The story of Prince Charles and Camilla Shand had always been complicated, but by the mid-1980s it took an explosive turn. Although Camilla had married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973, and Charles had tied the knot with Lady Diana Spencer in 1981, the connection between Charles and Camilla never truly disappeared. Behind the grand royal events and public appearances, their bond remained strong, and by 1986, their affair had quietly resumed. At this point, Charles and Diana's marriage was already struggling. What had started as a fairy tale union was now filled with tension, misunderstandings, and unhappiness. Diana was aware of Charles's lingering feelings for Camilla, which only added to the cracks in their relationship. Charles, feeling increasingly distant from Diana, found comfort in the arms of the woman he had always turned to, Camilla. Their rekindled affair wasn't something that happened overnight. It began subtly, with Charles and Camilla spending more time together at social events and private gatherings. Camilla, who was still married to Andrew Parker Bowles, was a source of emotional support for Charles. She understood the pressures of his royal life in a way that Diana, still young and inexperienced at the time, struggled to grasp. For Charles, Camilla was more than just an old flame. She was a confidant, a friend, and someone he could rely on. As their relationship deepened, rumors of their affair began to spread. Friends and aides close to the couple noticed their growing closeness, and whispers about their meetings started to reach the public. Diana herself confronted Charles about his relationship with Camilla. The affair caused a ripple effect of pain and scandal. Diana's emotional struggles became more apparent, and her marriage to Charles continued to unravel. Meanwhile, Camilla faced her own challenges, as her relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles also began to break down. By the early 1990s, the affair was no longer a secret, and the media frenzy surrounding it became relentless. Looking back, the resumption of Charles and Camilla's affair in 1986 marked a turning point in the history of the British monarchy. It not only led to the eventual collapse of 2 marriages, but it also set the stage for decades of public and private drama. Their love, though controversial, would later endure and reshape the royal family in ways no one could have imagined. Charles marries Diana, 1981. It was July 29, 1981, when the world witnessed what seemed like the perfect fairy tale. Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, married Lady Diana Spencer in a grand ceremony that captured the hearts of millions. With over 750 million people watching on television worldwide, it was called the Wedding of the Century. The union between the shy 20-year-old Diana and the 32-year-old prince appeared magical. But beneath the surface, the story was far more complicated. The wedding itself was nothing short of spectacular. St. Paul's Cathedral, chosen for its larger capacity compared to Westminster Abbey, was packed with royals, dignitaries, and celebrities. Diana arrived in a glass carriage, wearing a stunning ivory silk gown with a 25-foot train, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel. The sight of her stepping out of the carriage became one of the most iconic images in royal history. The young bride looked every bit the princess she was about to become, and the crowd erupted in cheers as she made her way down the aisle. Charles, dressed in his naval uniform, waited at the altar, appearing calm and composed. The couple exchanged vows, though there were small, telling signs of nerves. Diana famously mixed up Charles's name during the ceremony, calling him Philip Charles Arthur George, instead of Charles Philip Arthur George. It was a minor mistake, but it hinted at the underlying stress of the day. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. The streets of London were lined with thousands of well-wishers waving flags, and the reception was a grand affair. The couple's kiss on the balcony of Buckingham Palace became a defining moment, replayed countless times in the media, Diana, with her natural charm and beauty, quickly won over the public, earning her title as the People's Princess. However, while the world celebrated, the marriage itself was built on shaky ground. Charles and Diana had only met 12 times before getting engaged. Their relationship lacked a deep emotional connection, and Charles's lingering feelings for his former flame, Camilla Parker Bowles, cast a shadow over their union. Diana, though smitten with Charles, would later reveal how lonely and isolated she felt. Diana confronts Camilla about the affair. By the late 1980s, Princess Diana could no longer ignore the growing distance between her and Prince Charles. Whispers of an ongoing secret between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles had turned into louder rumors. Though Diana had always sensed that Charles's heart belonged to someone else, she decided to face the situation head-on. In 1989, she gathered the courage to confront Camilla at a birthday party, an event that would become legendary in royal history. Many well-known figures had gathered for a celebration in London, unaware that the evening would take a dramatic turn. The party was held for Camilla's sister, but the happy occasion had a tense undertone. Diana, feeling increasingly isolated and hurt, chose this moment to speak directly to the woman she believed was threatening her marriage. It was a small gathering, which made it easier for Diana to corner Camilla in a quiet corner, away from the main party. Diana approached Camilla with determination, her heart pounding. Despite her nerves, she spoke calmly, but firmly. She famously said, "I know what's going on. Don't treat me like I'm stupid." People who later heard about this confrontation often wondered how Camilla reacted to being challenged by the Princess of Wales. According to Diana's own accounts, Camilla tried to maintain her composure, but the tension in the air was undeniable. The conversation that followed was brief but powerful. Diana made it clear she wanted no secrets in her marriage, and that she deserved honesty from both Charles and Camilla. In some reports, Camilla replied that Diana had everything she could want: fame, beauty, and 2 beautiful sons. Diana, however, saw these words as dismissive and hurtful, feeling that Camilla was undermining her emotional needs. This confrontation was a key moment in Diana's life. Though she didn't end the affair that very night, she took a brave step by standing up for herself and her children. The media would later learn of this face-to-face meeting, adding more fuel to the already intense coverage of the royal marriage. For Diana, it was a moment of releasing pent-up anger and sadness. In the years that followed, the tension between Diana, Charles, and Camilla grew stronger, eventually leading to tabloid headlines around the world. Yet, this single evening at a birthday party remained a turning point. Diana's confrontation showed her willingness to fight for her dignity, even if it meant challenging the very traditions and expectations that had long defined royal life. Charles and Diana live separate lives, 1986. Charles and Diana's marriage started like a fairy tale, but by 1986, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Instead of sharing a warm and loving bond, the Prince and Princess of Wales seemed more like strangers under the same roof. Friends, staff, and even the public noticed that the couple was drifting apart. The magic of their 1981 wedding was gone, replaced by long periods of living separate lives both in and out of the palace. At the time, Diana was a global icon. Her warmth and compassion shone during royal events, charity visits, and public engagements. People adored her for her natural charm and stylish outfits. However, behind the scenes, she felt lonely and misunderstood. Charles, meanwhile, continued his royal duties and focused on his private interests, like polo and gardening. He spent more time in the countryside, enjoying peaceful retreats and the company of close friends. Their busy schedules offered an easy cover for how little time they actually spent together. Though both tried to keep up appearances for the sake of tradition and their roles, tensions were growing. Rumors about Diana's unhappiness and Charles's connection with Camilla Parker Bowles only added more strain. Diana's heartfelt attempts to find emotional support from Charles often went unanswered, and Charles, feeling pressured by royal expectations, withdrew even further. As a result, the two formed separate routines, rarely sharing intimate moments or genuine conversations. Even at public events, keen observers could sense the distance between them. Something big has happened in the royal family. Queen Camilla, the woman who stood beside King Charles, is now facing a shocking end. A decision has been made, and there's no way for her to escape it. The palace, once full of power and control, is now filled with whispers and tension. For years, people have talked about her. Some with respect, others with anger. But now, everything has changed. The news has spread like wildfire, and the truth can no longer be hidden. What really happened? Why is this the end for her? This is not just another royal story. This is the moment that changes everything. What led to the sentencing? No one ever imagined Queen Camilla's royal journey would take such a sharp and dramatic turn. For years, she had been standing strong next to King Charles, fulfilling her royal duties and slowly winning over the public. But things don't always go as planned, especially within the British royal family, where one wrong move can change everything forever. It all started like a small rumor, something people didn't take seriously at first. But in a matter of days, it turned into one of the biggest royal scandals of our time. It was a journalist who first revealed the shocking truth. He claimed to have undeniable proof that Camilla had been secretly working on a personal memoir, a tell-all book about her life inside the royal walls. This wasn't going to be another sweet story about royal events or charitable works. No, this book was different. It promised to reveal private secrets, secret conversations, and the royal family's hidden moments that were never meant to reach the public. Even worse, the journalist claimed that a whole chapter was dedicated to Camilla's private feelings about Princess Diana, including moments that had remained buried for decades. At first, the palace refused to comment. Many thought it was just another gossip piece, something the tabloids created to stir drama. But soon after, more sources confirmed it. People who had seen parts of the draft claimed it was explosive. It didn't just talk about Charles and Camilla's relationship, but also touched on sensitive topics like Diana's struggles, private fights within the family, and even Camilla's secret thoughts about Prince William and Prince Harry. This wasn't just a book. It was a bombshell. Behind the palace gates, the atmosphere was tense. King Charles was reportedly devastated. He had fought for years to have Camilla accepted as his queen. And now, just months after receiving the title, she was accused of betraying him and the entire family. Prince William was said to be furious. To him, this wasn't just a betrayal. It was a direct attack on his late mother's memory. Sources close to the family revealed that William demanded action. He felt that if Camilla truly wrote those things, there was no way she could remain queen. Even Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who had distanced themselves from the royal family, were rumored to be watching closely. Some said they were quietly amused, feeling that the same royal family who once turned their back on them was now facing its own nightmare. Others said Meghan reached out privately to William, though that remains unconfirmed. The palace knew they couldn't stay silent any longer. Meetings were held behind closed doors. Lawyers, advisors, and senior royals gathered to decide Camilla's fate. And then came the announcement that no one expected. Queen Camilla was to be sentenced. The sentence explained. What does it really mean? When the public first heard the word sentence, many assumed Camilla was facing legal action. Some even thought she might go to prison. But in the royal world, punishment looks very different. There was no court, no judge, no prison. Instead, there was something far worse: complete removal from royal life. The royal family released a carefully worded statement. It didn't directly admit the truth of the memoir, but made it clear that Camilla had broken their trust. And so, the queen consort was stripped of all her royal duties. Overnight, Camilla disappeared from the royal calendar. No more public appearances, no more speeches, no more smiling beside Charles at official events. After years of working hard to build her image, it was all gone in a heartbeat. The punishment didn't stop there. Camilla was also asked to leave the royal residences. She could no longer stay at Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, or Balmoral. These places, which had once been her home, were now off limits. Reports suggest she was sent to a private estate, far from London, hidden away from cameras and curious eyes. Some say she left the country altogether, retreating to a quiet European village where no one would recognize her. Others believe she's somewhere deep in the countryside, living a life of complete isolation. The final blow came when the palace declared that Camilla would no longer be funded by taxpayers. For years, her royal expenses had been covered as part of her role. But now, that was over. She would no longer receive public money. Even more shocking, insiders whispered that King Charles was forced to agree to strip her of the title, Queen Consort. From now on, she would once again be known only as the Duchess of Cornwall, a clear sign that she had been officially erased from the highest position she had ever held. Many people were left wondering why the punishment was so harsh. After all, this was the woman Charles loved deeply, the one he waited decades to marry. But royal experts believe it was all about survival. The royal family has faced too many scandals in recent years: Prince Andrew, Harry and Meghan, and now Camilla. They knew they had to act fast and act strong to protect the crown. Some also say this was personal. Prince William, still haunted by the loss of his mother, may have pushed for the harshest sentence possible. He couldn't forgive Camilla for dragging Diana's name back into the spotlight. Others believe King Charles was left with no choice. Saving his reign meant sacrificing the woman he loved. What does this mean for the future of the monarchy? With Camilla gone, the royal family faces an uncertain future. For King Charles, this is possibly the biggest challenge of his reign. He spent years building Camilla's image, convincing the world she was fit to be queen. Now all that work has crumbled. His approval ratings have dropped, and many are questioning if he still has the strength to continue as king. Some believe this scandal could push him to step down sooner than expected, paving the way for Prince William to take the throne. The family itself is more divided than ever. This scandal has opened old wounds, especially between William and his father. There are whispers that they barely speak now, and that William feels betrayed all over again. Not just by Camilla, but by his father forever bringing her into their lives. As for Harry and Meghan, it remains unclear where they stand. Some say they feel vindicated, watching the royal family suffer the same public shame they once felt. Others believe they're staying silent, knowing that speaking out now could only make things worse. But out of this mess, one person seems to be rising stronger than ever: Princess Catherine. With Camilla gone, Kate has become the most powerful and beloved woman in the royal family. People are calling her the new People's Queen, saying that she represents everything the monarchy should stand for: grace, dignity, and respect. Many believe that this scandal has cleared the path for Kate to take on an even bigger role, one that could eventually see her as the face of the monarchy itself. There are also fears that this scandal could have lasting effects on the monarchy's image. Some experts believe that if the royal family keeps facing one crisis after another, it might push younger generations to turn their backs on the institution altogether. The question now is, can the monarchy survive this, or is this the beginning of the end? Camilla's final goodbye. Before disappearing from the public eye, Camilla released one final statement. It wasn't through the palace. It wasn't a grand speech or a carefully crafted video. Instead, it was a simple handwritten letter that made its way to the media. In it, Camilla wrote, "It is time for me to step back, forever. I never intended to bring harm to the monarchy, but I now see that my actions have caused pain. I will spend the rest of my days in quiet reflection. I ask for privacy as I move forward." Her words were soft, but the meaning was clear. Camilla knew her time was over. There was no apology, not really, but there was a sense of finality, as if she had accepted that her dream of being queen was now nothing more than a memory. Since then, no one has seen or heard from her. Some say she's living somewhere in France, while others believe she's hidden away in the English countryside. Wherever she is, one thing is certain: Camilla's royal chapter is closed. She is no longer part of the story, no longer standing beside the king, no longer in the spotlight. And just like that, the woman who once fought so hard to be queen said goodbye forever. Queen Camilla's time is over, and nothing will ever be the same again. The royal family has seen many scandals, but this one will be remembered for years. What happens next? Only time will tell.
I can't mimic voices for love or money. I'm completely hopeless at it. I was a really bad actor at school, and
In a stunning development that has sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace, Tom Parker Bowles, son of Queen Camilla, has been sentenced in a case cloaked in unprecedented secrecy. The ruling, delivered behind closed doors and mysteriously absent from public court records, has resulted in his immediate removal from public life. Palace officials have imposed an extraordinary information blackout, but our sources have uncovered the disturbing reality behind his sudden disappearance. What could the Queen's son have done to warrant such severe consequences? And why has the royal family gone to extreme lengths to keep it hidden? Stay tuned, because this revelation will forever change how you view the British monarchy. The Secret Tribunal. On what appeared to be an ordinary Tuesday morning, Tom Parker Bowles arrived at a nondescript government building in London's diplomatic quarter. Unlike the high-profile court appearances of celebrities or politicians, there were no press photographers, no waiting crowds, just an unmarked entrance guarded by individuals who carried no visible identification, but moved with unmistakable military precision. Dressed in a conservative gray suit with no distinctive features, Tom was escorted through a private entrance and vanished from public view. A food critic and author who had carefully balanced his royal connections with an independent career, his expression betrayed no emotion as the doors closed behind him. Inside awaited what one source described as a tribunal rather than a court. The small windowless room contained only essential personnel. A panel of 3 judges with specialized security clearance, legal representatives who identified themselves only by last name, and a defense team that our sources claim had been appointed rather than selected by Tom himself. This wasn't a legal proceeding as the public would understand it, revealed a source with connections to diplomatic security protocols. This was risk containment operating under the thinnest veneer of judicial process. The charges, while never formally announced, allegedly centered around unauthorized communications with foreign entities, specifically, individuals connected to both international media organizations and foreign intelligence services. According to our sources, Tom had been under surveillance for months after certain patterns of communication raised red flags within royal security circles. It began with his legitimate food writing contacts, explained a former colleague who requested anonymity. But somewhere along the line, he began exchanging information that went far beyond culinary matters. Information about palace operations, security protocols, and most damaging of all, private communications between senior royals regarding matters of state. What made this case particularly sensitive was the nature of the information involved. Unlike typical royal scandals centered around personal indiscretions, the material Tom allegedly shared touched on the monarchy's relationship with government, the constitutional gray area where royal influence intersects with political power. During the 7-hour proceeding, Tom reportedly maintained the composed demeanor that had characterized his public life. He spoke only when directly addressed by the tribunal, neither confirming nor denying specific allegations. Those present described his bearing as resigned rather than defiant, the demeanor of someone who understood the institutional machinery he faced. The ruling, when delivered late that afternoon, was extraordinary in both scope and severity. While not termed imprisonment in any conventional sense, the sentence mandated Tom's immediate sequestration at an undisclosed location, with no access to communication devices, publication platforms, or unapproved visitors. The official terminology, protective isolation for reasons of national security, barely concealed the reality: permanent removal from public life. As Tom was escorted from the room through a secure exit, he reportedly made a single statement to the senior security official overseeing the operation: "Tell my mother I understand the necessity." This phrase, cryptic to those unfamiliar with royal dynamics, has been interpreted by insiders as acknowledgement of the monarchy's ultimate priority: institutional survival above individual interests, even when family is involved. Within hours, he had been transported from London via military aircraft, his destination known only to a handful of officials with the highest security clearances. The containment operation. The palace's official statement, released the following morning, made no reference to any proceedings. It simply announced that Tom Parker Bowles would be stepping back from public duties indefinitely to address private health matters and requested privacy. The brevity and vagueness only intensified speculation among royal observers. Behind the scenes, an elaborate operation was already underway, not just to manage Tom's physical removal, but to systematically erase evidence of his activities. Teams with specialized training in digital forensics simultaneously accessed his London apartment, office, and country home. Computers were seized, mobile devices confiscated, and physical documents removed. But the operation extended far beyond simple evidence gathering. This wasn't just about collecting materials, revealed a source with knowledge of security protocols. This was about eliminating all digital footprints, scrubbing communication records, and creating an alternative narrative about his absence that could withstand public scrutiny. Most telling was the treatment of his professional workspace. According to witnesses, the office where Tom wrote his food columns and books was not simply searched, but methodically dismantled. Digital storage devices were removed. Reference materials were cataloged and transported to secure facilities. Even seemingly innocuous items like notebooks and appointment calendars were treated as sensitive materials requiring special handling. The thoroughness suggested not just concern about what he might have already shared, but fear about what channels of communication he might have established that remained undiscovered. There was serious concern about dead drops, scheduled information releases, or material already positioned with publishers overseas, explained a former intelligence officer familiar with such operations. When someone with his connections commits to sharing sensitive information, the ripple effects can continue long after they've been contained. This fear drove the next phase of the operation, identifying and neutralizing potential associates. Editors who had worked with Tom found themselves subject to unusual scrutiny. Publishers reported subtle pressure to delay or cancel projects involving him. The pattern revealed a coordinated effort to isolate anyone who might have served as his conduit to the wider world. Digital traces began disappearing as well. His social media accounts were either suspended or suddenly managed with notably different content and tone. Archives of television appearances where he had discussed royal connections became mysteriously unavailable on streaming platforms. Even photographs in which he appeared at royal-adjacent events were quietly removed from official sources and media libraries. Most concerning to those tracking the situation was the treatment of his published work. His most recent food columns disappeared from publication archives. Bookstores reported receiving requests to return unsold copies of his latest cookbook for a corrected edition that never arrived. The systematic removal of his professional output suggested concerns that extended beyond personal indiscretion to something embedded in his public work. The concern wasn't just what he knew, but how he might have encoded that knowledge in his published writing, suggested a literary analyst who had studied similar cases of writers under government scrutiny in other countries. Food writing provides remarkable cover for transmitting information through seemingly innocent references. Ingredients can be code names. Preparation techniques can signify methods of operation. Restaurant locations can indicate meeting points. The royal family fractures. Behind palace walls, Tom's sentence reportedly created the most significant family crisis since Prince Andrew's fall from grace. Queen Camilla, caught between maternal instinct and institutional duty, was described by insiders as outwardly stoic, but inwardly devastated. According to sources familiar with palace operations, she was informed of the action against her son only hours before it occurred, presented not as a request for her approval, but as a security necessity already in motion. Camilla was effectively told, rather than consulted, said one palace source. This wasn't a mother being asked about her son's fate. This was a queen being briefed on an operation affecting the monarchy's security. King Charles, meanwhile, allegedly maintained a more detached position. Sources suggest he viewed Tom's actions through an institutional lens rather than a personal one, as a security breach requiring containment rather than a family matter requiring compassion. This perspective has reportedly created tension in the royal marriage, with moments of strained silence replacing their usually warm rapport. The king sees monarchy as his life's purpose, explained a longtime royal advisor. Threats to its stability override personal considerations, even when family is involved. Camilla hasn't yet developed that institutional callousness that royal life eventually demands. Prince William has reportedly supported the action, viewing it as regrettable but necessary for protecting the monarchy's future. According to palace insiders, he was among those briefed on specific communications intercepted from Tom and recognized their potential to undermine public confidence in royal neutrality on political matters, a cornerstone of the modern monarchy's survival. Most surprisingly, Princess Anne, known for her dedication to duty and protocol, has allegedly questioned the handling of the situation. Sources claim she has expressed concern about the precedent of removing a royal-adjacent figure through extrajudicial means, suggesting that, once we operate outside the law, we undermine the very system we claim to uphold. For Tom's sister, Laura Lopes, the situation has allegedly triggered profound distress. Unlike her brother, Laura has maintained an intensely private life despite her royal connections. Sources close to her family report that she has made repeated requests to contact her brother, all of which have been denied citing security protocols. Laura is essentially being told that any attempt to reach her brother could implicate her as well, revealed one source. It's a cruel but effective method of ensuring family compliance, the implicit threat that concern could be interpreted as complicity. For Queen Camilla herself, the situation has created an impossible position. Sources describe a woman torn between institutional obligation and maternal anguish, permitted no direct communication with her son since the sentencing. All information about his welfare and circumstances comes through official briefings provided by the same security apparatus that engineered his removal. In public, she performs flawlessly, noted one senior household member. In private, the strain shows in small ways. Moments of distraction, unusual irritability, the occasional canceled engagement citing mild indisposition. She's grieving while having to pretend nothing significant has happened.
The palace has just issued this statement.
In a crowded courtroom, something happened that no one expected. Queen Camilla, who has always stayed calm and strong, suddenly started crying. The reason? Diana's sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, had just shared shocking new evidence. This wasn't just any evidence. It was information that could change everything. The royal family, which had seemed perfect from the outside, suddenly looked very different. As the details were revealed, everyone in the room sat in complete silence, unsure of what would happen next. The truth, something many had kept hidden for years, was finally coming out. It was clear that nothing would ever be the same again. With every piece of new information, the tension grew, and it became harder to believe that the royal family's perfect image could ever be fixed. What came next would leave the world stunned. The storm that's been brewing for decades, some stories never really end. They just stay quiet, waiting for the right moment to return. And this story, between Princess Diana, Queen Camilla, and the royal family, is one of those. To understand what happened in the courtroom today, we need to go back to the very beginning. When Diana married Prince Charles in 1981, the world watched in awe. She was young, beautiful, and full of hope. To many, she was the picture of a fairy tale princess. But behind palace walls, the truth was very different. Long before Diana, there was Camilla. Charles and Camilla had been close for years. Even after Charles married Diana, their relationship never truly ended. Diana felt it. She knew it. And the pain of that knowledge stayed with her for years. In 1995, Diana sat down for a television interview that changed everything. Calm and soft-spoken, she looked straight at the camera and said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." It was a single sentence, but it echoed around the world. With that line, Diana pulled back the curtain on royal life and showed everyone the heartbreak she had been hiding. That interview made headlines, but more than that, it made people listen. Diana became known as the people's princess, someone who spoke from the heart, someone who hurt just like everyone else. Her honesty touched millions. Her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, were still very young at the time. But even then, they saw what their mother went through. They saw her sadness. They saw the loneliness. And after she passed away in 1997, that pain didn't disappear. It stayed with them. Over the years, both William and Harry have spoken openly about how much their mother meant to them. They've worked to protect her memory, to make sure she isn't forgotten. For them, this isn't just history. It's personal. Now, Decades later, that pain has resurfaced in a way no one expected. A new court case has brought the past back into the spotlight. What started as a quiet investigation has turned into something far more serious. And at the center of it all, once again, is Queen Camilla. What led Camilla to court? The case began with whispers, small details, unconfirmed reports. At first, it seemed like nothing more than old rumors returning. But then new information came forward, information that couldn't be ignored. Someone from inside the royal circle, someone who had stayed silent for years, finally spoke out. They claimed there were letters, audio recordings, and personal documents that showed how Princess Diana had been treated during her time in the royal family. More specifically, these records suggested there had been a quiet but deliberate effort to control how Diana was seen by the public. According to the source, some of the people involved wanted Diana to appear unstable, emotional, difficult, even unfit for royal life. And the name that appeared more than once? Camilla. The documents didn't accuse her of causing harm directly, but they suggested that she may have been part of conversations meant to protect her own image, conversations that came at Diana's expense. Once this information became known, legal teams got involved. Investigators looked at the materials, and eventually, the court agreed there was enough evidence to move forward. A formal hearing was scheduled. Queen Camilla was named in the case. That alone was shocking. For years, she had managed to avoid direct involvement in controversies like this. But now she was being asked to face difficult questions under the full light of the law. Inside the palace, there was clear concern. Efforts were made to handle the matter privately. Meetings were held. Lawyers spoke on her behalf. But none of it stopped the legal process. The case was too serious. The documents too detailed. So despite everything, Camilla had to appear. Not in royal regalia, not on a palace balcony, but in a courtroom, where titles didn't matter, and truth was the only crown that counted. William and Harry take the stand and shake the monarchy. When Prince William and Prince Harry entered the courtroom, there was no royal ceremony, no grand entrance, just two sons, walking quietly, ready to speak about their mother. Prince William took the stand first. He was calm, steady, and clear. His voice didn't shake, but you could feel the emotion in every word. He spoke about Diana not as a public figure, but as a mother. He described how hard she tried to stay strong for them, even when things inside the palace were falling apart. At one point, William said, "We owe it to our mother. She never stopped loving us, even when she felt like the world turned its back on her. Now, we must speak for her." He didn't accuse anyone directly. That wasn't his way. But the message was clear. His mother had suffered, and someone needed to take responsibility for that. Then came Prince Harry. His approach was different. More emotional, more direct. He didn't hold back. Harry spoke about how his mother was followed, how her words were twisted, how she was left alone when she needed support the most. He talked about the pain she carried and the nights she cried behind closed doors. He said, "They tried to silence her. They made her feel like she was the problem, but she was only telling the truth." Then came the real turning point. Evidence was presented. Letters written by Princess Diana herself. Handwritten, honest, and full of emotion. In one letter, Diana wrote that she didn't feel safe, that there were people around Charles who saw her as a threat. She didn't name names, but the suggestions were clear. Another note described how her image was being torn apart, that stories were being planted, that someone was trying to paint her as unstable, not because it was true, but because it served a purpose. These letters were followed by recordings, short audio clips where Diana described the pressure she was under, how alone she felt, how she feared that even her own words could be used against her. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Camilla. She didn't speak. She didn't interrupt. But her reactions said everything. The crown cracks. Camilla's most vulnerable moment. Queen Camilla is known for keeping her emotions in check. She rarely shows weakness in public. But in that courtroom, all of that changed. As Diana's words filled the room, spoken through letters and recordings, Camilla's face turned pale. She looked down, her lips pressed together tightly. A tissue appeared in her hand. People who were there said she seemed deeply shaken. At one point, she appeared to wipe her eyes. Another witness said she looked as if she might faint. This wasn't the Camilla the public was used to seeing. This was someone who seemed lost, vulnerable, perhaps even full of regret. No one knows exactly what was going through her mind, but it was clear that the words spoken that day had hit their mark. For years, Camilla has lived with the title of Queen Consort. But in that moment, she wasn't a queen. She was simply a woman, facing memories she might have hoped would never return. Her legal team tried to comfort her. They asked for breaks. They requested that certain pieces of evidence be skipped or edited. But it was too late. The truth was already in the room, and no one could ignore it. The image of Camilla leaving the courtroom, silent, tired, and tear-streaked, is one that those present say they will never forget. Not because she was broken, but because for the first time, she seemed fully human. As the court drama unfolds, the consequences of this shocking revelation are far from over. The world will be watching closely as more secrets come to light. Will this mark the beginning of a new chapter for the royal family, or the end of an era? Only time will tell.
King Charles III has been diagnosed with cancer. Buckingham Palace just confirming the news in a statement, but not saying which type of cancer.
Something serious is happening behind the palace doors. Queen Camilla has shared news that no one saw coming. She has been diagnosed with a dangerous illness. For years, she has been by King Charles's side, always strong, always smiling. But now she faces a health battle that could change everything. People close to the royal family are worried. Whispers are spreading. What does this mean for her? What does this mean for the royal family? Questions are everywhere, but answers are few. Now, the truth is coming out, and it's more shocking than anyone expected. Queen Camilla's deadly diagnosis. Now, let's talk about the heartbreaking reason Queen Camilla is making headlines all around the world. This news has shocked not only the UK, but also millions of royal fans across the globe. No one expected this, and honestly, it's hard to even believe. Queen Camilla has shared that she has been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a rare and deadly type of blood cancer. It's the kind of disease most people don't know much about until someone close to them is affected. Sadly, that someone, in this case, is Queen Camilla herself. It is believed that Camilla first started feeling unwell a few months ago. She had been experiencing constant back pain, unusual tiredness, and even weight loss. At first, she thought maybe it was just stress or age catching up. After all, being part of the royal family comes with a lot of pressure, and she's been attending countless royal events. But things didn't get better. In fact, they got worse. She found it hard to stand for long hours during events. Even smiling and waving seemed tiring. That's when the doctors ran some tests. After weeks of checkups and endless hospital visits, the royal doctors finally gave her the heartbreaking news. She had multiple myeloma. Camilla chose to share this news with the world in the most graceful way. Instead of hiding it, she sat down for an emotional interview with a royal reporter. With a trembling voice, but with her usual calmness, she shared her diagnosis. She wanted people to hear it from her, not from rumors. She also released an official statement through Buckingham Palace, where she thanked everyone for their love and support. Camilla admitted in the interview that hearing the words, "You have cancer," changed her world forever. She said she felt like the ground had been pulled from under her feet. But she also shared that she is determined to fight this battle with all her strength. Understanding multiple myeloma. The silent killer. Many people might not know what multiple myeloma is. It is a type of blood cancer that affects the plasma cells found in our bone marrow. These cells are supposed to help us fight infections. But when they turn cancerous, they start damaging the body from the inside. The symptoms can be really hard to notice at first. They include tiredness, back pain, frequent infections, and weak bones. Most people, just like Camilla, think it's normal aging or stress. But sadly, this disease keeps growing silently inside the body until it's too late. Multiple myeloma is very dangerous because it doesn't just attack one part of the body. It spreads and affects the bones, kidneys, and even the immune system. That's why doctors call it a deadly disease. The survival rates depend on how early the cancer is caught. Some people live for several years with treatment, while others may have a much shorter time. Sadly, there is no permanent cure for multiple myeloma yet. The treatments available, like chemotherapy, radiation, and stem cell transplants, only help to slow it down. Doctors say that this cancer is more common in people above the age of 65, which makes Camilla's case even more worrying. Many women her age don't even realize they have it until it becomes very serious. Experts from across the world have already started reacting to Camilla's diagnosis, calling it a brave step for her to share this news publicly. They hope it will raise awareness about this deadly disease and help others catch it early. The impact on Queen Camilla's royal duties. Now, as you can imagine, this diagnosis has not just affected Camilla's health, but also her role as the queen consort. Being a senior royal is not easy. There are hundreds of public appearances, charity events, and royal tours every year. It's a full-time job that demands both physical and emotional strength. Sources close to the palace have said that Camilla is already stepping back from many of her royal duties. She has canceled several public appearances, and palace insiders say this is just the beginning. Doctors have advised her to rest and focus on her treatment, which will involve chemotherapy and other aggressive treatments. King Charles is said to be absolutely heartbroken by the news. He has been by Camilla's side every step of the way. In fact, royal insiders say that the king is even considering cutting back on his own royal duties so he can spend more time with Camilla during this tough time. What's even more worrying is that this comes at a time when King Charles himself is battling his own health issues. As many of you already know, Charles was recently diagnosed with cancer too, though the palace hasn't shared what kind. This means that both the king and queen are now fighting serious health battles at the same time. Prince William and Kate Middleton are also said to be deeply worried. With both Charles and Camilla unwell, a lot of the royal responsibilities may now fall on William and Kate's shoulders. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, though estranged from the royal family, have reportedly reached out privately to express their concern and support. There is growing speculation about what this means for the future of the monarchy. Will Charles and Camilla step back fully? Will Prince William need to step up sooner than expected? These are questions many people are asking right now. Camilla's personal message, a woman of strength and grace. In the middle of all this, Queen Camilla has shown incredible courage. In her interview, she spoke openly about her feelings and her plans for the future. She thanked everyone who had sent her letters, prayers, and good wishes. She also shared a very emotional message that touched many hearts. She said, "I have always believed in facing life's challenges with courage and grace. This is not an easy journey, but I know I am not alone. I have the love of my family, my husband, and the people of this country. For that, I am truly grateful." Camilla also made it clear that while she is going through treatment, she wants to spend more time with her children and grandchildren. She wants to focus on what truly matters: family, love, and making every moment count. At the same time, she said she will continue supporting the causes she deeply cares about, like women's health, domestic violence charities, and reading programs. But of course, everything will now depend on how she feels and what her doctors advise. She ended her message with a small but powerful request. She asked people to get regular checkups and never ignore the signs their bodies give them. She hopes her story will encourage others to take their health seriously. What this means for the future of the monarchy. Camilla's diagnosis has left many people wondering what the future holds for the British monarchy. With both the king and queen battling cancer, this is truly an uncertain time for the royal family. For centuries, the royal family has symbolized strength and stability. But now, the future feels shaky. There are talks in royal circles about the possibility of a regency, where Prince William might have to step in to perform the duties of the king if Charles becomes too unwell. This is not something that would happen overnight, but the fact that people are even talking about it shows just how serious the situation is. Some experts say that the royal family might never be the same after this. At the same time, many people feel a new sense of connection to the royal family. They see Camilla and Charles not just as royals, but as human beings, parents, grandparents, husband, and wife, facing the same fears and struggles as any other family. Public sentiment right now is mixed. Some people are sending endless love and prayers to Camilla. Others are quietly questioning what this means for the monarchy's future. Will people continue to support the royal family if their two most senior members are no longer able to lead? One thing is clear: the coming months will be crucial. The royal family will need to make some very difficult decisions. But for now, the most important thing is Camilla's health and well-being. Queen Camilla's diagnosis has left many in shock, and the future remains uncertain. As the royal family faces this difficult time, all eyes are on what happens next.